Hello, my name is Shpani and this is the Curly Bookworm. Today we are talking about an interesting topic. It's controversial but it's interesting because there are some books on YouTube, you know, the ones that get like a lot of hype and become super popular and everybody is talking about it. I read some of those books and I was not happy with some of them. And I thought I would put it out there just in case some of you felt the same way or you were wondering if you should pick it up or not. There are 4 books that I kind of liked. I didn't hate them. I want to be clear, I didn't hate these books. I rated them. I think like all of them I rated 3, which is good. It's kind of like above average, but that's all it is. It's above average. It's not amazing the way the rest of YouTube has sold it to me, at least. And I want to talk about it. Let's go. Okay, so the first book that I want to talk about is Yellowface. The premise was kick-ass. It was amazing. It was so tempting that you had to pick it up. So this is about a girl whose name is June, who is an author. She is a white woman in her, I think, late 20s or maybe early 30s, and she isn't very popular. She's written a couple of things and they haven't done well. They haven't even done like above average, and she's kind of sad about it and she's very resentful. And she's especially resentful because she is friends with a woman called Athena, who is an Asian woman, Asian American woman, who also went to college with her, I think, and they are friends and they socialize once in a while. They're not especially close or anything because Athena is not necessarily like very close to anybody, not her parents. She doesn't have a boyfriend, she doesn't have best friends, which is, I don't know, like now on hindsight a little bit convenient to the plot, but anyway, it's okay because we're not criticizing it yet. The point is that Athena is a very, very popular author. Like Netflix is picking up her stuff and like the world is talking about her, and she tells June all of this when they meet and hang out, and June is obviously like super resentful. And one day they're hanging out and they're having drinks and Athena literally drops dead, like quite literally. June doesn't kill her or anything, she just dies. At this point, June knows that Athena is working on an almost finished new book that nobody has seen because obviously she's not close to anybody and she's been working in secret, and so June is tempted. So she takes this manuscript home and she reads it and she's like, you know what? Athena has had enough good luck and enough fame in her life and I'm going to steal this manuscript. So she actually like basically publishes it, plagiarizes, and she publishes it in her name, and the world is surprised, and she kind of changes some stuff around so it doesn't sound like Athena, it sounds like her. She embellishes it, she works on it, and then she gets it done, she publishes it, and it becomes an instant success. There's a lot of like conversation around it, and June loves the attention. She loves the fact that she has become popular. And then the book becomes not so great. Until now, like everything is great. Like she starts getting worried and there's paranoia building up because she's obviously a plagiarist and she's scared and all of that. And then that's all that happens in the book. Like June's voice, which is in first person, is extremely whiny and extremely repetitive. And I just was like, skipping a few pages towards 2/3 of the book because I was just like, can you say something that's new? There's nothing that builds up by way of plot, and even towards the end I didn't feel like it ended in a way that was satisfactory, or well, it didn't end in a really great way, it ended in a way that was satisfactory. To be very clear, it wasn't a terrible book, so if you want to pick it up, I wouldn't say don't. Just don't go into it with like great expectations the way I did, and you should be okay because it really isn't terrible. It's a page turner. When I started it, because it was such a edge of your seat sort of premise, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I could not get enough of it until I got enough of it. I was just like, stop talking, June. But yeah, it's an unpopular opinion. A lot of people really, really like this. I did find a few people online that didn't love it. Like I said, I don't hate it, but I did not love it. So, unpopular opinion. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk about is this one. This is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Tress was part of 4 books that Brandy Sandy introduced in 2022, saying in secret he'd been working on this project of 4 different novels that he didn't tell anybody about. Only his wife knew, his publishers, his PR folks, his editors. Nobody knew that he was working on these secret projects during the pandemic, during the lockdown, which like I do not understand it, because like we were all baking bread or sourdough or whatever we were doing at that point, and we were doing house chores and feeling miserable in like 2020 and 2021, and Brandy Sandy was writing all of these amazing books. The book industry at large was so excited about it, and I think Tress was one of the first books, if not the first book, that he came up with, and so I was obviously super excited to read it. I did not sign up for the fancy you know, like Kickstarter edition books, thank God, because I did not love this book that much. I gave it again a 3 on 5, which is an above average rating. It's not a bad rating at all, but I just thought it was very okay. Like, I didn't understand the hype behind it. So let me tell you what it's about. Tress is in this weird island sort of like universe. I think that's where it's like built. The world building is pretty cool. It's very fairy tale-esque, the tone and the vibe of the story. But beyond that, it is about a girl. It's a very simple girl who like cooks and cleans, and she's a nice little good girl. She lives on this little island, and it's a weird ass world where like the water is actually something else, like that's not actually the ocean. All of these like weird things. The moon is weird, and like it's a very cool world, I must say. So Tress is in this world, and she has the hots for this boy called Charlie, and something happens, and this like awful sorceress who lives beyond all of these seas has captured Charlie. And so Tress is like, you know what, I'm gonna go rescue him. I miss him so much. I've never done anything great or brave in my life, but I'm gonna go look for this guy. And then she goes off on this like major adventures where she's sailing with pirates, and there's all kinds of weird things like a talking rat and like a really mean pirate pirateering a really mean ship, and like these weird things happen to her, and everything's very exciting for a while. For Tress, not for me, because my attention was not on this book. It took me months to finish this book because I was just not invested in any character. I wasn't invested in Tress. I wasn't invested in any of the pirates or the people on the ship or the rat or the witch or the world or anything. Like I said, for the most part, it was a cool world because it was unusual and it sounded very fairy tale, very like Grimm's fairy tales sort of vibe. Very nice, but that's where I feel like all my interests sort of died, because I didn't care if Tress made it, didn't make it. I didn't care what happened to the rest of the characters on the ship or any of the characters in the book or Charlie even. I was like, I don't care. There were certain things that I really liked, like the tone of the book, which I thought was like really funny. Like he had written very differently from the rest of his work, which I thought was really cool. There were some lines that I actually highlighted because they were really cool. But apart from that, I didn't love this book. I didn't hate it. Like I said, very ambivalent. So if you want to read it because you're intrigued about Brandy Sandy's secret projects, go for it. But if you're not intrigued, then I would say it's not necessarily one that you want to, in my opinion, go for. And therefore, I was really stunned and confused that everybody that I followed on YouTube was like, oh my god, what a great book. Oh my god, so cozy, so nice, so vibey. And that's not how I felt about it at all. I'm sorry, Brandon Sanderson. I'm still a huge fan. I just didn't love Tress. And that's all I have to say about that. Okay, so a few years ago, I picked up this mammoth book called The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Now, why am I talking to you about this book? It was amazing. So this does not belong on this list, but what does belong on this list is the prequel of the book, which is A Day of Fallen Night, which gratefully I bought on my Kindle. Everybody was raving about it, and to be very honest, I was super excited that it was being launched in 2023, and I did start and finish it in 2023, and it was kind of a disappointment. Why, you ask? Let me tell you what the Priory was about before we can talk about A Day of Fallen Night. So this is a very, very complex high fantasy novel. When I say complex, I mean there are several different point of views. There is a queen, there is a protector of that queen, there are some religious sects, there are dragons, there's a whole bunch of things happening. There's a queer angle, and then there's all of these like dragons and other mystical elements. It's a really, really great book. It's almost like these worlds at some point start meeting, and then the world building just really gets heightened. I am describing this really terribly. I'm really not selling it at all, especially for a mammoth book, but it's got a dragon, it's high fantasy, and it's very well recommended. So if at all, I would say pick this one up. But this again is not about this book. It's about A Day of Fallen Night, which is, like I said, is a prequel to this. At the point that you finish the Orange Tree, you're thinking, oh, okay, where did all of this come from? You want to know where all these dragons came from. You wanted to know the history of the queen, her protector, the history of some of these religions that they introduce. That actually is very, very beautifully told, and I was so absorbed into it in that book. And so we go into all of that in this book, but it kept like going there, but it didn't. I think the pacing was really, really off. Like, you would have to, it would get really slow, and then you would follow all these characters, and then suddenly there'd be an explosion of different things that happened, and the pace wouldn't hold, and then it would drop again. And then like there were these reveals that happened. Again, I can't tell you much more because then I'd be spoiling both books, but there were these reveals that happened which were quite cool, but they weren't cool enough for you to have waited like 800 pages of the book to get to. So yeah, I mean, I would say this is a highly unpopular opinion. I literally couldn't find a single person that at least I saw on BookTube that was saying that they didn't enjoy this book, that they didn't love this book. But I didn't enjoy this book. If you're a huge fan of Priory, I would say read Day of Fallen Night. But if you aren't, I would say definitely skip it. I would, however, say read The Priory of the Orange Tree. I know, this is not about that book. But this one, you could skip. That one, don't. And again, I did not hate it. I was just disappointed by it. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk about is this one. This is The Inheritance of Orquedia, Divina, which is about this lady who is sort of witchy, and they live in this like small town in America, and she's like come away from a South American country. There's all this mystery around this lady, and she goes on to having a bunch of different like husbands and kids and grandkids and all of that. So now at the beginning of this book, all her grandchildren and like different relatives within that immediate family start getting letters saying, I am dying, come collect your inheritance on this date at this time. And so everybody turns up, a huge family that turns up at the house where this lady's at, which is almost like this enchanted sort of house. Some of them are happy to be back, and some of them are actually quite annoyed because there's so much mystery and weirdness around her that they just want to run away from it. And that's where the book starts. I loved the first 2/3. It was amazing. I was super intrigued by it. I just felt like there was all of these really cool magical elements and suspension of belief and all kinds of weird family characters and all kinds of weird magically things happening. The backstory was really cool. A lot of mystery and mystique. Lovely. And then literally, I could not tell you what happens, but it's like the author just didn't know where to take it, lost the plot quite literally, and stopped writing a good story. Like the last third of the book, I don't know. I cannot tell you what happened because I don't know. I was so upset. It just went to all these bizarre places. I can't give you any details or specifics, but it just, suspension of belief was stretched too far like a chewing gum. And it really honestly made the story snap. I just couldn't believe half the things that she was saying anymore. I wasn't interested. And quite frankly, I was annoyed because I really loved the book thus far, and I was like, why are you doing this to me? But if you don't mind some loco things happening towards the end, pick up the book, because there's a lot of really cool vibes and really cool moods in the first like 2/3 of the book. But if that's not your jam, then don't pick it up, because it will disappoint you like it disappointed me. Anyway, so that's all the books that I have for you today. I hope this video was helpful for you. I will see you in my next video. Bye.